Good evening, Rascal Enjoyers. I hope you're doing alright, because it's time for 48-hour analysis. Yes, just 2 days ago, all of these skins rotated into the Rust store, and we're going to go ahead and take a look at their progress based on sales to figure out, are these skins still potentially holding up to being perfectly fine investments, or are there any potential issues that might have appeared that we need to be concerned about? Understood? Right, so what's this we're currently looking at? This is the first 24 hours of sales. Every single week, I'll take a screenshot of the Rust store after the first 24 hours, and I'll always tweet it out to everybody, because it's a very nice, useful bit of information. So if you're interested, consider looking at the description of this video right now. You'll see links to the likes of my socials, including my Twitter. And if you want to stay informed in regards to the Rust skin economy and whatnot, please consider following me. Please consider keeping track of what's going on. So, as I said, get a good look at the sales that you see here, because we can make some comparisons. We can make a good assumption in regards to how things might potentially turn out for the rest of the week. Why'd you say that, Hedge? Well, get a good look at the sales that you see here for the Frontier Rustic Garage store. At bare minimum, we have 4,576 sales, because of course that's the subscriber count. If I were to show you a comparison to the previous week, what do we see here? Well, first of all, you'll quickly notice that we saw the likes of the Punk Jack Largewood box that had 8,362,000 bare minimum sales. A lot better compared to the current week, especially when you look at some of these skins, and as you can clearly see, they had higher sales in comparison to the Frontier Rustic Garage door. But the main thing that I want to address to all of you is the fact that take a look at it. Take a look at this Frontier Rustic door right here, the sheet metal door that we literally had the previous week. This was the 6th best-selling skin after the first 24 hours. And that's not, it's not very interesting, is it? But this right here had more sales in comparison to that garage door after the same amount of time. Yes, that definitely kind of like paints a big picture in regards to the skins of this week, but also that garage door right there. Because if we were to take a look at how this ended up, you are probably going to expect the likes of this garage door only ending up with about 10,000 bare minimum sales. Now, again, that's if it does, keep the same momentum as this sheet metal door right here. Again, we can't guarantee that's going to happen, but it's an interesting note to be aware of, isn't it? So, again, look at the amount of sales that we have for everything here. Get a good look at that. And now, we should go ahead and take a look at the 48 hours of sales. Now, just before we continue, I should point this out. Whilst what you see here is the sales after 48 hours. It's been a few hours since then, so basically I've got this tab kept nice and prepared for me to do this video, but if I were to navigate away, you might notice that the sales might increase by a fair bit. Just know this is a good few hours after that, so don't worry, I do have another screenshot just over here. Where's that? Let's just bring this up. So I've got a screenshot of the Rust store from earlier at that specific point, but as you can clearly see, yeah. So if I were to navigate right now and go back to here, you'll see that the sales have gone up a fair bit. So just wanted to get that all across to you. So let's go take a look at this. So 2 days in, 6,636 bare minimum sales. That's not that much, is it? No. And then you look at the likes of the kilt, you got the likes of the coffee can here, and you got the likes of the vest. You got 4 skins above 6,000 bare minimum sales, but in comparison to many other Rust stores of the past, that's really not that much. And I can actually do a quick comparison. So if I were to click this and show you here, last week's 48-hour analysis video, you can see after just 2 days, Punk Jack Largewood Box had 11,743 subscribers, aka at least 11,700 bare minimum sales. And then you look at the likes of Neon Vibes, 10,600-ish. And then you got like Chameleon Bolt Action Rifle, 7,900. And Soulless Legion Crossbow, 7,849. But again, if we were to more specifically make a comparison to the likes of the sheet metal door, that sheet metal door had 6,550 subscribers. So if we quickly hop back over to here. So this seems to be gaining a little bit more traction in comparison to that sheet metal door. Let's remember a very specific detail. You've got to remember that that sheet metal door ended up with only 9,738 bare minimum sales. Now again, do we know the exact amount that are currently out there? Are there private accounts that probably have a massive stash of them hidden away? That's a possibility, all right? We don't fully know how many are out there, but we can look at the subscriber count, and we can definitely sit here and say at least 9,738 of them were sold. And at the current rate, the likes of this garage door right here, it honestly looks like it's only going to just about match up with it. Maybe it might do a little bit more, but from what I see, it's probably going to end up at maybe about 10 to 11,000 sales. Again, we don't fully know if there's accounts out there that are buying tons of them in, like a private account. But with what we can currently see here, this is looking to be very interesting, especially for all of this Rust store, because the observation from what we can see is we're probably not going to be seeing that many sales at all with the likes of all of these skins, which would, in theory be all the better for it to potentially rise up in price. So looking at this garage door right here, I want to just quickly remind you that this, of course, is a see-through mesh garage door, and it's the cheapest one that we currently have available. Yes, we have had Twitch drops. I'm fully well aware of that. But you've got to remember that all those Twitch drops have come and gone. You can't get them anymore. And again, in the future, will we potentially see even more Twitch drop garage doors with see-through mesh? I wouldn't rule out the possibility. But again, with what's available to us, with what people can actually get a hold of, this right here is the cheapest option. So get a good look at that. Nothing really wrong with it. It's a perfectly fine looking door. Again, you could make a nice point that it's probably best fit with the likes of some role players. Sure, understood, very nice. But do kind of get this in your head. So first of all, let's just quickly hop over to here. Please remember that there are other doors out there. We have the likes of the Bombshell garage door right here, and very similar in terms of style in regards to their see-through mesh. Now, some of you are probably wondering, Hedge, can you actually stand up and see that? By default, with just nothing below you, no, you cannot. You're going to need to stand on something to be able to see through that. So if that's something you're not too happy about, understood. And don't forget, we do have even more garage doors out there with see-through mesh. Very recently we had the likes of that Brutalist garage door, and that's still holding up pretty nicely. Even the Bombshell garage door is still holding up very nicely. But with more and more of these see-through mesh garage doors coming out, it's becoming less special. And don't forget, like I said, there's very likely a very decent chance you're going to see even more Twitch drops being given away for free, which will also have transparent mesh. So do be concerned about that. Let's now hop over to here. Let's start discussing the current state of what we should be thinking about. So why don't we go ahead and take a look at some of those other garage doors that we just took a look at. Now, I'm not going to show you Chop Shop because that's an older skin. And, well, if I just show you this real quickly, it's actually one of the older skins as well. Yeah, oh, okay. Sorry about that. As you can see right here, it was actually the very first skin to be introduced with the likes of Defense Garage Door. But yeah, that's $40, and what's the point? Now, we're going to look at newest. So here we are. So we've had the likes of this Frontier Rustic Garage Door, but very recently we did see the likes of the Brutalist Garage Door. And what else did we just take a look at a minute ago? We have the Bombshell Garage Door. So let's go take a look at these two skins. I'm going to need to close this. I'm going to need to show you this right here. So there's 108 of these on the Steam market, which is a perfectly fine average amount. On average, for every Rust skin on the Steam market, they should have about 100 quantity. And that right there at 108, perfectly fine. Buy orders going all the way above $4, the price it sold for in the Rust store. Very good. And when you look at the actual listings, you've actually got two stragglers here. Honestly, I'd look at this and I'd say this is actually $5.50 at the moment. So yes, while it might say it's that price, honestly, the bulk of it is above $5. So we'll just roll with that. So this is like a $5 skin. Very nice, very cool. And then we'll quickly hop over to here. And this is the Bombshell garage door. And as you can see, this is currently sitting at about $4 plus, with the buy orders keeping that in check. So it doesn't really look like it's going to go down in price anytime soon. If anything, this will be going up in price around January time, along with all of the other Rust skins around post-Christmas time. So, yeah, these are in a perfectly fine position. They don't really have that much resistance. Nothing to really be concerned about in regards to, is it overstocked? No, perfectly fine. So when I look at the likes of this, let's just be aware that both of these garage doors, not only do they have see-through mesh, but both of these glow in the dark. This right here does not, okay? So that might be a game changer for some people. I know, it's a bit silly to say that. But one thing I do want to make us fully well aware of is the fact that how much exactly did those Brutalist garage doors and how much did the likes of that Bombshell garage door sell for? Like, how much quantity was bought? Well, if you look at this right here, 29,000 bare minimum sales. So that had over 29,000 subscribers. And what did I say the expectation was for the likes of the amount of sales we're going to see for this? I reckon we're going to end up with about 11,000 bare minimum sales, aka just about 11,000 subscribers. So with a lot less of these in comparison to these, that's quite significant. It's about like a third of the amount of these in circulation. And then again, let's quickly make a comparison to the Bombshell. Bombshell had over 20,000 subscribers, aka at bare minimum 20,283 bare minimum purchases. So, in theory, the likes of our Frontier Rustic Garage Door, well, that would have half as much of these in circulation, or it would be half as much of what of these are in circulation, if that makes sense. Sorry. So, the main potential very nice driving point with the likes of this garage door right here is the fact that there's not going to be many of them in circulation by the time we reach Thursday. And after that, well, there you go. That's it. There's no more that are ever going to appear unless you potentially open one of them in a, what would it be? It would be a high quality crate. So that actually is looking to be very interesting. Now, don't forget, we do have abnormals this week. The Rust store did come out at a perfectly normal time, so no need to worry about this. So at least we can do our abnormal barders as well. But when I look at this on Wednesday, I'm honestly thinking I might go pretty strong in it. Because, of course, let's just do a real quick look at the likes of the Sheep Matador right now. Yeah, he's very happy at the moment. He's very comfortably in the positive. Now, let's not forget, it's only been a few days of this being marketable, so we can't properly judge it yet. But when you look at the buy orders, it really does look like it's having a pretty good time. It's only increasing. So, yeah, I think people have got it in their heads that there's just not many of these in circulation. And we should be well aware that there was a brand new continuation that's just been uploaded a good few hours ago. So get a good look at that and start considering, are we potentially going to have a full collection of Frontier Rustic doors? And then also don't forget, we potentially might actually get the proper release of that Frontier building skin, if you can remember that. We're supposed to have a Frontier building wooden building skin. It was like revealed back in it was properly revealed back in September. I'm gonna have to show you this, aren't I? Sorry about this. So if I go to Rustified Frontier building, it's all there. It's well known. Yeah. Do you remember this? We've already brought it up like several times already. So there was supposed to be a Frontier building skin. It's still technically out there. It's just not been properly released. Maybe it gets released in December. Who knows? But when that properly releases, do you reckon people just can instantly think, this is supposed to go with those Frontier doors? Because, this doesn't come with doors, does it? Pretty goofy, but I think people are instantly just going to assume, I have to go buy the Frontier door skins now. And all the better for them to rise up in price because there's not many of them in circulation. So, yes, there's a lot of potential possibilities out there, but by default, this is the cheapest see-through mesh garage door that we have available. There's very likely going to be even more skins coming out for this proposed collection. And when this potentially releases, if it ever does, well, what do you reckon? Do you remember when the sheet metal container building skin came out, and then everybody bought out the container sheet metal doors and whatnot? Yeah, so for your consideration, consider looking at these skins. All right, so we've said more than enough. I've held on to I've hanged on to this a fair bit too long. So shall we move on? Shall we start talking about the likes of the Hardsuit Tier 2? Right, so these skins over here. The very first thing that I thought of when I looked at these was, right, we have to keep an eye on the amount of sales that these have in comparison to the likes of the boots and the gloves, the Tier 3, and of course the likes of the hoodie and pants, but more specifically hoodie and pants and Tier 3. And at the current rate, these look like they're going to sell a lot less in comparison to what we have of these and of the Tier 3. So let's just get this understood. At bare minimum, there's about 17,000 sales for both the hoodie and pants here, and for the Tier 3, there's just over 20,000 for the both of them. With the expectation of what we're going to potentially land on with the likes of these skins, well, Hardsuit Kilt probably will maybe just about reach 11,000 to 12,000 bare minimum sales. That is nothing. That is nothing in comparison to these. So, what was the point that we mentioned before? Typically, when you finally have a full collection, the core piece with the least amount in circulation tends to be the skin that ends up becoming the most expensive. And, well, by default, I'm pretty sure the kilt is going to be the skin that becomes the most expensive out of all of these. But with the vest and the helmet potentially selling even less, I think these two potentially might have a very nice time ahead of them. But the biggest question that we have to answer is there going to actually be any genuine interest in this full collection? Because we've seen many collections get finished and then people didn't care about them anymore. It's awkward, but it does happen quite a lot. All right? So we're in that weird position of what will happen next. So there that's definitely something I want to think on a little bit more. I'd rather leave it for a little while. I'd rather leave it because this is abnormal. Or rather, the kilt and the vest are abnormal, not the coffee can. I want to wait until Wednesday night. I want to see how much is sold by then, and then I want to approach it. Because I'll be honest with you, I'm a little bit skeptical if people are actually going to jump in and wear this and be happy with it and whatnot. I'm not hating, I'm just saying, like, is this what people crave? And it's very shiny metal, and I get the feeling people probably don't like that, probably don't want that. I'd like to talk to my chat. I'd like to discuss and get a good idea of what people in general feel about this set. Because if the set isn't actually that in demand, well, what's the point in investing into it? Or rather, investing heavily into it. So, yeah, we're a little bit awkward. But the main point I want to get across is the expectation is these skins are going to be selling a lot less in comparison to the rest of these skins. Which would mean, in theory, these are going to be much better to rise up in price in the future, based on whether we actually see people actively wanting to use this collection. Understood? So let's see how things play out. This is abnormal, this is abnormal, this is not abnormal. We're going to look at these skins on Wednesday, and we're going to figure out how we're going to approach it. Because there's a lot of things that we just kind of need to think on a little bit longer. But at the end of the day, things are looking very good, right? If this were to work out, if this collection were to be used, these skins are going to go up in price quite nicely. It's if it's in demand. So let's now move on. Let's start talking about the likes of Banditos, Hoodie, and Pants. So by default, this is potentially a brand new collection. This potentially could have Tier 2 armor and Tier 3 armor on the horizon. Will that actually happen? We don't know. We have to keep an eye on the likes of the workshop. Has anybody jumped in and asked, hey, are you going to go ahead and make Tier 2 and Tier 3 armor? And no one's asked. And if we quickly go over to here, has anybody asked here? And hope the Tier 3 chest plate looks like leather vest. Be patient. So, yeah, that gives the impression that they are going to be making Tier 2 and Tier 3. So, very nice to question that. Good stuff there, Mr. 55. Right, so, what happens if we see a brand new core piece potentially being accepted in the future? Well, by default, the other pre-existing core pieces will rise up in demand and rise up in price ever so nicely. So, we basically saw that with the likes of Hardsuit this past week. Tier 2 finally was accepted. All of these skins had a massive surge in demand, and their prices did go up. They've cooled down a fair bit since then. But with the likes of these two skins here, potentially not going to be selling that much. Well, what do you reckon might happen here? So one of the first things that I pointed out to the likes of you lot was the cowboy skins, the cowboy themed skins. They've gone up in price by quite a lot. Ever since we had the Frontier base pack come out, these skins went up ever so nicely. Now, also consider this. We just talked about this a little bit earlier, but what happens when that Frontier building skin comes out? Do you reckon all of these cowboy skins will go up even higher? Potentially. But again, when you look at that Frontier building skin, a lot of people by default thought it looked like Wild West themed. So, these skins might potentially go even higher, but what about these skins? So, main point I'm trying to get across is, if we see Tier 2 or Tier 3 being made, and it does sound like that's happening, then all the better for these to potentially spike in demand if we see those skins being accepted at some point in the future. But what happens if we only ended up with these two, but we still got that Frontier building skin? Are these still potentially going up in price? I could see it happening. So, expectations. Where will these potentially end up at? At the current rate, maybe about 10,000 sales each, which isn't that much in the grand scheme of things. You know, when you look at the amount of people that play, it's not that much. So when we expect to see a whole lot more people playing around January, what do you reckon could potentially happen? And by then, within that amount of time, do you reckon we'll see Tier 2 and Tier 3 armor? Yeah, so you've got to think about that. So my current expectations are, at the very least, this isn't abnormal, so it's a little bit awkward. But I want to see how many sales happen by Wednesday, and then I'll make a decision in regards to what I'm going to potentially want to do next, because other people exist. And if you don't see like immediate continuations appear, immediately, people tend to just unload their stock and move on. Like, you've got to understand other people exist, and if they don't get instant gratification, they unload whatever they have and move on to the next thing. They don't care, all right? And you suffer because of that, because the prices of the skins that you're invested into probably will go down because of that. So let's be patient. Let's just see what happens next. But it potentially might be a situation where we just stick with doing a buy order. At the very least, we need to keep an eye out for what potentially is coming out on the workshop. Sounds good? Right, so hopping back over to here, let's now move on to the next thing. Let's talk about the charcoal stories furnace. So I gotta say, I do like the skin. We've talked about this already. Like, it's got a very cool looking visual on it. All the nice little doodles all around, a nice panorama view so you can see as you slowly go around it. You see all the nice little doodles on it and whatnot. But at the end of the day, like, is everybody going to see that properly? Is everybody going to acknowledge this? Is everybody going to appreciate this? And I've kind of come up with the point of, I don't think so. I don't think people are going to be appreciating this. And if you can understand that, well, you have to be aware that other people exist, and if other people don't seem to care for it, what's going to happen? It's going to go down in price. So it's very likely going to end up like most furnaces that came out this year, and get a good look at all of this, because they are not doing very good, unfortunately. Only Abyss Furnace is doing the best. Cocoon did go down in price a fair bit, but this was expected. I wouldn't be surprised if this potentially starts to ramp up around the end of this month, as expected for a Halloween skin. So yes, if you're going to be barking at me saying, Hedge, you said this was a different coloured interior, it's going to do better. I did tell you I do expect it to rebound at some point after the end of November. But anyway, looking at the rest of these skins, yeah, they're not in a good position. This is a position we've been in before, literally last year. Every single every single furnace skin that we looked at that came out around this year. Okay, let me just repeat myself. We looked at all the skins from 2022, didn't we? And at around the same position last year in November, I looked at all of them and they weren't in the positive either. Every single one of them was in the negative. But once we got to around January 2023, quite a lot of them did perk up. Quite a lot of them did rise back up in price again. So I get the feeling that some of these are going to probably end up behaving the exact same way as well. Potentially. It's not something I'm like crossing my fingers for. But looking at the likes of this at the moment, this is going to probably do about maybe 10,000 sales at best. And we do see some other skins with even less, and they're not doing very good at the moment. So unfortunately, unless this potentially turns into a collection, I just can't really see it holding that $2.49 price. And, well, I probably will be bidding low because of that. So this skin right here is abnormal, alright? And maybe the safest approach is just sticking with a buy order. Because having seen how all those furnaces behaved after an entire year, yeah, I'm not very keen on furnace skins. And I've said that many times this year already, so unfortunate, but it is what it is. So I like the skin, but I just don't think it's going to be appreciated. So let's move on. Ronin AR. So, of course, this is part of a somewhat nicely established collection. Still hoping to see the likes of Hoodie and Pants being accepted at some point in the future. Maybe we'll see a version 2, or maybe this gets accepted in the future, complete the sets. But moving on, you can clearly see there's a whole batch of clothing and armour here. Well, I mean, just armour. But with the likes of this, we do need to be aware of the amount of AKs that have been accepted this year, and with the amount that have been accepted recently. So over the course of like 1 month, I'm talking 4 weeks in a row, we've had an AK, we've had an AK, we've had an AK, we've had an AK. Yeah, we've had a lot of AKs in such a short amount of time. Over the span of the entire year, we've had 36 AK-47s being introduced in the year of 2023, and that's pretty ridiculous. So there's plenty of AKs in circulation, plenty of AKs to choose from, and you have to look at this AK and question, is that going to retain its value? Then you take a look at every other AK that came out this year, and by default you're probably going to think, probably not, no. So yeah, awkward. Far too many skins to choose from. We're in a bit of a weird position, sorry. But I will sit here and say this is a very cool looking AK. It's a very nice and stylish design, perfectly befitting of the Ronin collection if you've seen the armor properly. So with what I see here, I can see this doing a fair bit better compared to most other AKs, but I'm still a fair bit concerned. So my answer is, looking at this AK, I think it might actually probably stick around fairly above $1, but I do expect it to go below its rush store price. And well, at the very least, with this AK, it is abnormal. We can use that time to our advantage. So we'll talk more about this on Wednesday, but at the current rate, I'm looking at this and thinking, I just want to stick with doing a buy order, if that's all right with you. You probably want to go ahead and buy it, and by all means, if you like the skin, buy it, use it, enjoy it, support the skin creators. Keep them motivated to keep wanting to put out very interesting creative ideas in the future. But with what I see here currently, I'm just not confident at this point of the year to consider jumping in and buying an AK. And I probably will never buy an AK in the future from here on now based on what we've seen with the amount that already exist. It's awkward, but yeah, it's too popular. Right, shall we move on? Pixel Decay LR 300. Right, so we just literally had an LR 300 being accepted the previous week, and this was randomly picked after being in the workshop for well over a year. Don't know what was going on with this skin, but at the very least, let's just go take a look at all. Okay, yeah. It's very obvious what my answer is going to be. So pretty much every single LR 300 that came out this year is pretty much down to around $1. Gun demand is the issue. If people aren't using the actual weapon itself that much, then where's the justification to use skins? And therefore, skins end up being very cheap, literally around $1, because then people can just turn it into metal and then sell the metal for a potential profit. Yes, you might sit there and say, well, what about modern military? Well, that's conditional because not many skins from the previous week's skin store are being listed. We'll talk more about that in a second. But yeah, that seems to be okay, but you shouldn't judge it based on what you currently see at the moment. And yeah, Chameleon LR's doing alright because it's part of a very nice, well-established collection that people like as a whole. People want the whole collection, so this has value. Much like the Redemption LR300. Whilst all the other LR300s aren't doing very nicely, people like this because they want the full set, if that makes sense. So yes, awkward, unfortunate, 70 cents, 90 cents. It is what it is. Because it very, 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 very likely will just be ending up at a $1 point. So maybe a little bit higher, most likely lower. It's unfortunate, but yeah. And then the same thing's going to be basically said for these tools, because if you take a look at every single hatchet that came out after the past 3 or so years, you might notice that every single hatchet that came out over the past 3 or so years is down to around $1 and less. 97 cents, $1.24, $1.01, 95 cents, 82 cents. $1.38, 99 cents, 99 cents, $1.04, 95 cents, 98 cents. We also have $1.01, $2.22, we have $1.01. Yeah, so basically, you get the idea. People don't seem to care about modern hatchet skins at the very least. What about pickaxes? Is there anything wrong with pickaxes? Yeah, it's basically the exact same thing. 89 cents, $1.08, 99 cents, 96 cents, 89 cents. It's just exactly the same. So, yeah, we're in that weird position of just, people don't seem to care about new tool skins. So, what do you reckon? What do you think? It's going to be a 70 cent to 90 cent buy order. I'm sorry, but, I appreciate the skin. Cirque, you did a very cool job in, utilising transparency to make a cool looking design, and here it is, and it's fine for what it is, but, people clearly don't have a demand for it. It's not selling much, and I don't imagine it's going to be holding up very nicely in terms of retaining its value. So, yeah, the quick answer is 70 cents to 90 cents. But they're both not selling that much, are they? No. And you probably wouldn't be surprised. I'm going to say it again. Well, if these don't sell that much, potentially they might be vulnerable to manipulation at some point. And this does happen quite a lot with skins that come out during the end of the year. They don't sell that much, and suddenly you see those same skins in about a few months' time suddenly surging in price because, well, manipulators got their hands on the vast majority of the stock. They inflate the value of the skin and make it appear to be worth, I don't know, $10+, maybe $20. They're capable of doing that. So if you happen to own a few of those skins and they get manipulated, well, you can sell to manipulators and get some really good money. Choice is yours, but it's not something I would cross my fingers and hope for. It's not something I would rely upon. Maybe just a little bit higher of a buy order. But yeah, things aren't looking good for these tools, unfortunately. But that would have been said for any tool skins that would have come out potentially this week. And this week overall just wasn't that much in terms of sales, and it's not expected to end up with that much sales anyway. So awkward, very, very awkward. I know it's a very straightforward answer, and I've basically repeated myself tons, but this is the expected thing to happen maybe for the next 2 Rust stores in November as well. December next month, the first week, might be a fair bit better. But at the very least, I do expect a lot of sales to happen for Christmas time. I wouldn't be surprised. That does tend to happen quite a lot. So maybe people just saving their money. Maybe people just didn't care for these skins. That's a very easy answer to say. I wouldn't be surprised if that probably is the basic answer. But yeah, it is what it is. Right, so I now want to go ahead and quickly look at all the skins that came out the previous week because they didn't really sell that much, compared to most Rust stores that came out this year. Also, these skins were only available for 6 days instead of 7. And, well, it's been a few days of these potentially, being, listed and whatnot. And they're not really going, like, they're not really struggling. Like, by now, a lot of skins that would have come out for a new Rust store would have, like, started to suffer. As you can see here, with Punkjet Large Wood Box, this did 17,200 bare minimum sales. Cool. But, yeah, for a $2.50 skin, it doesn't look like it's going to be going down in price anytime soon. But the boulders, well, again, yeah. So at the very least, will this actually go below its Rust store price? I kind of wouldn't be surprised if we eventually get there, but it might be just a couple skins. If hardly any more stock gets listed, it doesn't really look like it's going to be trending downwards that much. If anything, if there's just a spark of interest, suddenly it's going to easily get bought out and it's worth a lot more. Now, when you look at the Boulder side, you can see that the Boulders just aren't really, like the bulk of the Boulders, it ends at $1.40-ish. But more people have appeared because, as I said, hardly any of these are being listed. So people are kind of getting a little bit, antsy. Yeah, they're kind of like, come on, list some skins. I'll offer a higher price. Just give it to me. Maybe we might see these boulders just slowly climb up higher and higher and higher because people just like, well, can you just sell it for a little bit less? Come on. And, they'll just slowly build up more and more higher prices, and then suddenly it sells for like $2.50 at bare minimum. So maybe it will retain its value. I was not expecting that, but with the weird situation we're in with November, maybe a lot of skins are going to be like this for a while. Which is fine, because, when it's January, they're going to go up in price a whole lot easier. Cool. So then we have the likes of Neon Vibes Garage Door, $3.49 in the Rust store, and the lowest listing is $3.50. The highest boulder is $2.70. So yeah, I can still expect this to go down below its Rust store price. It's not too hard to notice why. But again, we're not seeing that many listings at the moment. But give it maybe at least another week, and then suddenly it is going to go below its Rust store price, because then we probably end up with maybe an extra 50 listings. You get the idea. So never rush to assume things are instantly okay. But usually you do see more listings by now. That is the weird thing, because like this still did like almost 16,000 bare minimum sales. Where's the listings? I don't know. It's just weird. People just aren't listing their things. All right, quick look. You also got the likes of Soulless Legion crossbow, 28 quantity on the Steam market. It has gone below its $2 price. Boulders, well, they're only going up to about 80 cents. Not good, but that was expected because people didn't really want to risk it on this. So most of the people played it safe with the Boulders. You've also got the Chameleon Bolt Action Rifle. We thought highly of this. We thought based on the fact that this simply did not sell that much. Also, when you make a comparison to the Redemption Bolt Action Rifle, very noticeable difference in terms of sales. 11,600 bare minimum sales versus 25,000 bare minimum sales. This looks like it's going to have a much better time in a higher price position. Yes. So, yeah, that did not sell that much. Loads of people will be looking at the Chameleon Collection when they hop back to playing Rust. This has a very nice future ahead of it because there's only so many of these in circulation. And by the looks of it, less people bought this compared to the LR300. Yeah, that's quite shocking, isn't it? So, back over to here. This right here. Only 29 listings on the market, next to no resistance. Boulders are slowly climbing up more and more and more and more. Yeah, it's got a pretty good future ahead of it. Looking at the likes of the Abyss Sleeping Bag, basically the exact same thing, next to no resistance. But what do we see here? Someone's caved in and thought, screw it, it's not going down in price that much. I'm going to go put down a price ever so close to the price it sold for in the Rust store, near $2.50. So, again, this is an Abyss Deplorable skin, and compared to all of the other Deplorable skins, this sold significantly less. And I'm confident we will be seeing some more Abyss Deplorables at some point in the future. Therefore, with a new Deplorable being at least, submitted, anticipation purchases might happen. And if it were to be accepted, well, if there's a new Deplorable skin being accepted for a collection, the pre-existing Deplorable skins very likely will spike in demand and spike in price. So all the better for this to rise up in price, because that only did 11,400 bare minimum. And you make a quick comparison to the other Abyss Deplorables, and oh look, Garage Door's in the positive now. But yeah, look at that. 37,000 bare minimum, 35,000 bare minimum, 21,000 bare minimum, 25,000 bare minimum. Yeah, it's ridiculous, isn't it? It's ridiculous. So, and then that only did 11,000. So that's got a pretty interesting future ahead of it. Did you buy some? Congrats, because it's in a very good position. We can also talk about the likes of this Frontier Rustic Door now. So, sold for $3. Not that many on the Steam market. We'll take a look at it properly in a second. But yeah, this only did 9,700 bare minimum sales. This is a see-through mesh sheet metal door, and it's like hardly any people bought it. It's weird, but ever since this became marketable, the buy orders have just been piling on more and more and more and more. So initially we had buy orders going all the way up to about $2.50, but then more appeared, and they keep climbing up, and now it's up to $4, and it's popular. And what are the chances we just keep seeing more Frontier rustic doors being accepted? Because of course we did have the garage door after this. So very nice position for this. Did you buy any? Congrats. All the better to you. And let's just kind of blitz through the rest of these because we don't want to be here forever, do we? Solely to Revolver, this only had, 7,000 bare minimum sales? That's nothing. And like we said, we hardly ever see Revolver skins being accepted. This is going to be perfectly comfortable for a fairly long time, but the price has slowly started to drift down to the price it was selling for in the Rust store. So this sold for $2. It's slowly getting down to about $2.50, but the buy orders are pushing all the way up to $2. So maybe it would probably go down to around slightly above $2, but that'll probably be its lowest point. January rolls in, suddenly all of that gets bought out, and it probably sits here at about $3 to $4. Wouldn't be surprised. All right, so pretty good future ahead of it. Let's see what happens next. You've also got the likes of the Bullseye AR. Now, this has gone below its Rust store price. AK-47s. What do you expect? Buy orders only went up to 75 cents. Nothing surprising here. It's unfortunate, but there's always another AK, and, well, people are just going to ditch the AK they bought and buy the new one. And that applies to the new one they bought, because there will be another AK, so they'll ditch that one too. Model Military LR300, we just discussed this. Only 10 of these listed on the Steam market. Buy orders are nowhere near that price, so that I don't see any justification. But if everybody who owns these refuses to list these below that price, then people are going to have to climb up, aren't they, with their buy orders? So yeah, it's a fair bit awkward, but if hardly any of these sold, hardly any of these will be listed. So we'll see what happens, but has any been sold? We saw one of them sell for just under $2, and then one of them sold for about $3.50. So it has happened. It has happened. Someone did buy one of these. But will it stick with like this forever? We need to wait at least a week and look at this again. Ink Dragon Pump Shotgun. This has slightly gone below its Rust store price, but the buy orders over to here kind of push it up. So this might sit around $2 for a while, but at the very least, that's fine. It remains evens. This did not sell that much, did it? This only did 5,500 bare minimum sales. If you make a comparison to the more recent pump shotgun skins we've seen fairly recently over time, over the past 2 years, yeah, that's definitely the lowest selling. But all the better for it to rise up in price, all the better for it to retain its value. Okay, cool. So then we're going to look at the Bamboo Blaster. Only 4,610 subscribers, so only so many of these sold, but with hardly any being bought, hardly any are listed, and people have had to climb up a fair bit. The actual genuine demand ended at about 90 cents, but like I said, people do actually want to get this. Some of them probably waited to the last second, but because this Rust store rotated fairly early, let me just remind you, this rotated fairly early, a lot of people got caught off guard, so they're having to offer higher prices. So yeah, that happened, and hey, it might work out all right for it, because with hardly any listings, hardly any sales, all the better for it to rise up in price. And then, of course, this skin right here, we're very curious about this one, because only 3,000 of these sold. Yep, only 3,267 subscribers. That means only 3,267 bare minimum sales happened, which is incredibly low. What do you reckon? Could this potentially be manipulated at some point down the line? We've had some curious people put down some stronger buy orders, but since then it's actually been climbing up a fair bit. So yeah, some listings have sold. The most recent one sold for about $2.70. Cool, isn't it? So yeah, that is the current state of that Rust store. But like I said, give it another week, look at it again. I wouldn't be surprised if some of these do go below the Rust store price. It won't last long, but it likely will happen anyway. And if you want, we could look at like the previous week, which wasn't a Halloween Rust store. Thunder Gold gloves going ever so slightly below its Rust store price. Boots still holding up a fair bit. Bruiseless Sheepman of Door still doing good. Desert Beast down a fair bit. We didn't see the continuation being accepted. Awkward. There's burlap stuff that was submitted. So who knows? Maybe next week, next Rust store, we shall see. Armageddon Sar, well, it's only down by 25%. I guess that's a positive. Hay Storage, well, only down by 1%. Doesn't look like it's struggling that badly. So he's doing all right. There's hardly any listings. hardly any listings. So, yeah, all the better for that. Soulless Legion Bow down by 46%. Oh dear. And these two skins. So these were two skins we considered that could potentially be manipulated at some point based on the fact that they sold hardly anything. And looking at this low Poly Thompson, well, there's only 20 on the Steam market. And, well, unfortunately, still below the Rust Store price because people don't seem to like the skin that much. Awkward, but what are you going to do? It's awkward. But yeah, maybe it does turn around because, again, after just a few sales, suddenly it's above its Rust Store price again. So, sheer lack of sales leads to sheer lack of listings, leads to so much for it to it's so much easier for it to rise up in price. I'm starting to slur, so maybe I need to wrap this up. So yep, even Suprematism went down in price. Too many AKs, it's unfortunate. Even though they sold hardly anything, it still went below its Rust Store price and lower than that even. So yeah, that's it. That's a wrap. That's everything. Sorry if I got a little bit awkward towards the end of the video. It's a fair bit late, so I need to wrap this up now. Congratulations if you've already made some profits with some of your skins, but don't sell. Wait until, at the very least, until January time. You want to wait until January time, you will see the likes of the player count go ever so higher and higher. We are seeing some progress, but you're probably not going to see any noticeable progress until December. And I really do get the feeling we're going to see the main push, the main boost, when the Twitch Rivals event plays, which will be in just 1 month's time, actually a little bit less. December 11th to the 15th, there will be Twitch drops, there'll be a lot of people watching, there'll be a lot of people motivated to play Rust all over again, and just as that Twitch Rivals event finishes, I do believe the Christmas in-game event releases into Rust, so things will be interesting. And, well, of course, hope you're nice and ready to start selling your Christmas-themed skins around the end of November, because that's when the demand begins, alright? Sounds good. So get yourself nice and ready. The selling starts soon, but that'll be for Christmas theme stuff. We start selling every other non-Christmas theme skin at the end of December. So cool. With that, thank you very much for watching me. I greatly appreciate it. Hope you all enjoyed yourselves. Have a lovely weekend. Have a lovely new week, and we will speak again at some point. Well, it'll probably be abnormals, wouldn't it? So catch you all later. See you and goodbye.